Baby, don't.
I always do that every time. Well, hello, and welcome back to another rendition of Chad's Coffee Corner.
But seriously, welcome back to my channel, guys. Kind of our channel, both our channels.
You know, what's mine is yours.
That works, babies. So, this is the part 4.
This is part 4?
This is part 4 of our love story series, babe.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's weird to go through it this fast because, you know, I'm sure if you guys have been staying up to date with this whole thing, you'll know that, you know, I tried to date her twice and she said no, and this was like a long drawn out time. And so for us to go fast forwarding, and I almost feel like it doesn't do it justice. I feel like we should come out with a video based on the timeline that it took for us to get back together.
That would be very drawn out.
You guys would be waiting a few years. Like I did.
So we left you guys off with how Chad got out of the friend zone. And so in this video, we're gonna be talking about dating long distance and when I decided to move to California.
Oh, babies.
So we officially started dating, what, December of 2017?
Yeah.
And to be honest, y'all, the Lord...
The end of December.
Yeah. The Lord really blessed us. Chad...
Bless.
Bless. Hashtag bless. Chad, if y'all didn't know, models for a living because he's so cute. Oh, you're so cute. As soon as we started dating, he started booking all this work in Florida, and we were seeing each other like twice to 3 times a month.
Shout out to my agents in Florida.
Yeah, and so it didn't feel like a crazy long distance relationship where we weren't seeing each other for months at a time. And I think it was legitimately 2 months into dating long distance when I'm sitting at a restaurant with Chad. He's like about to meet my brother for the first time. We're like having lunch with my mom and my brother, and he looks at me and he's like, so which one of us do you think is gonna budge first? I'm like, budge on what? And he was like, well, we don't want to do long distance forever, so like which one of us do you think is gonna end up moving? And I was like, not me.
I think we all know how that story ends. Let me just point you to the pie graph that I have listed behind us. See where that says? Home, Los Angeles. I think we know who won that one.
Yeah, I didn't win that one, y'all. Okay, wait. So we'll talk a little bit more about dating long distance before I go into why I moved.
It was better for us to probably be long distance because you couldn't resist this.
Bless it.
So I know that it was definitely a hop and a leap for us to commit to it because we both wanted to take this very seriously, and we were both like all in, but we were also like, oh gosh, like how do we make this work? We set a rule that we wouldn't go longer than 3 weeks without seeing each other. We felt like that was a decent thing, but we would also, we set a lot of parameters. One of them is that she was starting her own business, and so we made a rule that we weren't allowed to talk business after, was it 8 p.m.?
It was 8 or 9.
Yeah, it was 8 or 9 p.m. So we
my time.
Her time. So it was 6 p.m. my time. And so there were some pretty good boundaries that really helped us spend intentional time together, even though we were long distance.
And I think it was really good for us just because we had the chance, being in a relationship, to still develop just our friendship, you know, because we weren't around each other all the time, so there wasn't that like physical temptation constantly, which is really hard to battle with if you're trying to stay pure before marriage. And so I think it really helped us. And then it also helped that Chad's family lived, you know, only 45 minutes away from where I was living at the time. So when he came to Florida, you know, he could stay with his family. And two, it was just fun to be around family. I mean, Chad would be out here and I would just go hang out with his mom and dad and go to dinner, and it made me feel closer to him. I think that's when I knew that you were the one. I'll tell that story in a quick sec. On the other side, it was also really difficult because then whenever we were together for 2 days, 3 days, a week, whatever it was, she couldn't resist this. And so that was also, there were some hardships there too, because my baby's love language is touch, and I'm very blessed by that now. But it's so hard. Comment, we should do a video on love languages. And if you know your love language, comment it below because it just is so interesting to me.
Yeah. Now let me get you to, what was the story I was gonna share, babe?
when you knew I was the one.
Oh my gosh, y'all. Well, there's a few different versions, but I'm gonna share one of them that really just meant a lot to me. So I was living in Los Angeles, and my mom has a small little furniture business where she redoes furniture and she will sell them. So she'll buy it super cheap and then repaint it and repurpose it and everything, and she'll sell it. And so she had a lot of pieces this time, and she needed to move the furniture, and she doesn't like to drive those big trucks, you know, the big moving trucks.
Massive.
And yeah, the massive ones. And then long story short, Tori FaceTimes me from Lakeland, where I'm from, and she's driving the big truck for my mom. And I just thought that was so special. And I was like, babe, you should not be FaceTiming while driving. So I hung up because I'm safe. And then later on that day, she sends me a picture where she's cooking with my dad at home in Lakeland. And you know, I could just tell how intentional she was with my family. It just meant so much to me. I'm just like, oh wow, this girl's trying to get a ring. Like, she's trying to get a ring, am I right?
I didn't try, babies, I succeed.
Yeah, you did succeed.
Chelsea!
So, what brings you here today? Well, hello.
What are we doing? Oh, you guys are making a video.
Chelsea's here.
Hi.
We're talking about long distance and my decision to move to California.
Ooh.
And
Chelsea,
this is
how do
who
you
I
feel about
moved
that
in with.
decision?
I'm really glad you came here.
I just love the love.
So where we were with that is, that's how I knew that she was something really special, is that when I saw how much intentional time she spent with my mom and my dad, whenever I wasn't even there. And I didn't even know that was gonna be important to me, because obviously you don't really anticipate your significant other spending time with your family whenever you're not there. But she did it, and I'm like, oh wow, she got a ring because of it too. So
when it came to actually deciding to move to California, I remember once it was official, I just booked my flight to LA before I even knew like who I was gonna live with, where I was gonna live. I was like, it's just happening, like I'm going. A friend of Chad's connected me with Chelsea, and then we have like a FaceTime
shout out to Derek.
date.
Oh yeah.
Ayo, Derek. And Chelsea was like low-key concerned because she's like, who is this girl who's moving out here for her boyfriend?
I just didn't know. She's from Florida. I'm like, is she gonna go back home? I didn't know. But Chad had a conversation with me, and you could tell instantly how serious he was about her, and through it, how serious she was about him and where it was going.
Yeah, I think Chelsea and I talked for like an hour or so that
long
day.
time,
Yeah, we talked for a long time. And that was such a nice moment for me too, because I'm very protective over my lady. I'm very, very protective. And I remember talking with Chelsea, and I had met lots of really wonderful girls out here in LA, like just like nice people. And I'd never talked about God that much with one of them. And I was just like, oh wow, like this is who I want my future wife, my girlfriend at the time, then to be fiance and now wife, to spend time with, is someone who talks about God as much as she did, because honestly that's what Tori does too. And they were like, they were a match made in heaven, and now I'm honestly the plus one. Like look how close they are, and look how close. I think we're gonna pause this for now, because I think Tori's Bible study girls are coming over. Say
Great
bye-bye,
to see
Chelsea.
you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Give Chelsea all the love.
Well, hello. We're back and we've changed clothes. Well,
I didn't change.
I changed clothes. Take 43. Ouch, babies.
Just love me.
I do love you, babies.
How much?
Like turtles. Okay, so now we have a fun game we're playing, which is Chad interviews Tori. Tori, what would you say was some of the hardest things about dating long distance?
Missing you.
Missing me. Oh, babies miss me.
I would always cry when he'd leave at the airport, and then I'd call my mom and she'd say, did you just drop Chad off? And I'm like, yes.
Oh, my babies. I'm so sorry, babies.
You were way better at saying goodbye than me.
Yeah. What's that Sam Smith song? I'm way too good at goodbyes.
I'm way too good at goodbye.
Yeah, I like that song.
What was your hardest thing?
My hardest thing, thank you. I'll take the mic. My hardest thing about dating long distance was learning how to create appropriate boundaries that are like healthy for you all, because it's such an abnormal way to do life together, you know, where it's just like, hey, we're gonna live in different time zones and live where we can't spend time with each other. And we had to really be creative with the way I pursued her. How did I help her feel pursued and loved from so far away? That was really hard on me because I had to really think outside the box. Thank you for asking, that was a great question. How do you think dating long distance helped us for the future?
I think it really helped us, number one, learn how to prioritize each other, because I think in long distance it's really easy to just go about your own life, and it really takes sacrifice to not do what you might need to do to spend time on the phone. And so...
Are you spitting fire right now?
We learn to prioritize each other.
Amen. Are you kidding me? That's so true. Man, that's like my answer, but I wouldn't even thought about it. You know what I mean? Oh, baby, that was a very good one. I like that. If I were to answer the question that I just asked her, what was the question, babe?
How do you think dating long distance prepared us for marriage?
Just a quick answer on that one, Tori. Thank you for asking. I think that it helped with our communication skills. We were forced to talk on the phone. We were forced to have fun and awkward conversations. You know, when you can't touch each other,
you talk a lot.
So what do you want to talk about next? So many different types of conversations, and that's probably why our dating experience was a lot faster, because we got to have those deeper conversations with each other early on. Yeah. Thank you for asking that question, Tori.
Well, it's true, because I feel like sometimes if you're dating in the same city, you can kind of get in this rut of just, hey, you want to come over and just watch a movie, and you're spending quality time together, but you're not having to communicate, you know? And so I do think that helped us out a lot. Being smart,
like, it should be a good decision, you know, and who you're dating. Like, you know, we both have heard stories where it's just the person, they get married and they find out the person they married is not who they thought they were. And I'm like,
probably should have had a couple more conversations.
Yeah, like, how did that happen? And I know I sound almost insensitive, but I'm just like, man, like, talk to each other. Like, find out what each other's likes and dislikes are, what you want in the future, what you don't want in the future, so there's no surprises.
Yeah, especially if you are long distance and you're really thinking about moving to the same town. Have those conversations first before you move your life.
That's something that really did help us, because there were no surprises in our relationship. I told her everything bad about me, and she embraced that. And she shared stuff with me, and I embraced that. And there was no surprises. And I think that's one thing that we wanted to avoid, because we've seen in other relationships where someone gets deep into a relationship or they get married, and then they're like, oh, this person isn't who I thought they were. And I'm like, dang, well, that sucks. Like, I'm so glad that we took that time to really get to know each other. Yeah. Because, you know, we do believe in marriage, and we believe signing the contract, you know, and so
covenant.
Yeah, covenantally bound, babies. You're stuck with me. I kissed on camera.
So I guess I'll start telling you guys a little bit more about when I decided to actually make the move to California. You know, we're only seeing each other a couple times a month, and we were talking about marriage already. We kind of knew as soon as we started dating that, like, that's what it was leading to. And
well, I mean, guys and girls, I asked her, I was like, hey, so what's your timeline? Like, what are you thinking about, like, us in terms of, like, you know, what are you hoping for? And she replied to me,
I ain't trying to wait around.
She said, I'm not trying to wait around.
Gotta let them know. You gotta let them know.
She let me know. And so, yes, it wasn't just a conversation that we kind of knew that we were gonna be serious. She made sure that I knew where she was, which is great, because she communicated and it helped me.
That way I wasn't waiting around. So, long story short, he had brought this up in like February, and I go back to my prayer closet, and I remember journaling about it and really kind of...
You should show them your prayer closet sometime.
I should.
I don't know.
Baby, you get me so off track. So then I go back to my prayer closet and I really start journaling and praying, because I was very connected in Tampa, very invested in my community, and couldn't imagine what life would be like outside of Tampa. And at that point when he had brought it up, I hadn't even visited him in LA yet. So LA was like this thing that was so dark. I had no idea what it was gonna look like. It was the complete unknown.
And I had been, I mean, aside from growing up in Florida, whenever we started dating, I had visited Florida, I don't know, what do you think, 10 times? 10 times within a few months?
Yeah, and so I'm like, obviously he's gonna move here. Just makes sense. His family's here. I'm here. Nope. So God starts really working in my life, and maybe some of you can relate to this, but I was holding on to Tampa with a very clenched fist.
Like this.
Very, very clenched. And I didn't want to let go of some things. And slowly, God, in a beautiful way, was like releasing me from certain things. I was teaching at a dance studio and their recital came up, and so I didn't have to stay, and just different things were kind of moving and grooving in Tampa, and God was slowly releasing me. And I came out here to LA, and we actually met up for coffee with my friend Riley, who you've seen in my singleness series. And it was so funny because when we met up with her, I had shared that I was, you know, thinking about moving to LA, and she said something to me that was just like complete confirmation, because I don't even think Chad knew how serious I was considering moving out here before that. And she goes, Tori, you might not be ready for LA, but LA needs you. And I just sat there in the coffee shop, and it was like someone flipping punched me in the stomach, and I just started crying because it was exactly what I needed to hear, because I needed it to be from God. Like, I needed to know that God was in it, and I wasn't just moving on a whim, that God had ordained this whole situation, and that God had a call for me in LA, you know, with Chad, but also for me personally. And I think it's really important in a relationship to not lose the calling that's on your life or get lost inside of the relationship, because it's really important to maintain, you know, your love and your vigor for life and your calling and your purpose. And the person that you're with is actually just supposed to propel you into that and speak life into that, and that's what Chad was doing as well. And so
I think that's one of the hardest things about us and who we are. You know, there's this hard tension of like, okay, like, who's gonna move all their life? Who's gonna change? Who's gonna drop everything and go? And one of us, if we wanted to live in the same city, needed to budge. And it was just like, okay, we're not just moving geographical location, we're moving what we know.
yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest things, as you know, especially in a Christian relationship, a Christian marriage, is that how do we champion this person's call and their purpose, but also weave them into ours, and they do the same with us, and they weave us into theirs? How does that work? And I should have been a lot more sensitive too, because I've moved a lot.
LA, I moved to Miami, I switched apartments in Miami, I moved to Germany, I moved to London, I moved to another apartment in Miami, I moved to one apartment in New York, another apartment in New York, then out to LA, and another apartment in LA.
I like that. So it's been 10 apartments I've had since I left college. And so for me, I'm just so used to it. I didn't realize the roots that she had. I've never had roots. And so I didn't realize how deep her roots were.
Well, and I think I'm very blessed in terms of I had very wise counsel in Tampa, and I wasn't praying alone. You know, I was praying with him, and I was a part of leadership at a church and a women's ministry, and there was a lot of things, like you said, I was very rooted, I was planted there, and I think that's very important. But then I had my mentor, Erin, actually speak into that, and she said, you know, you're planted here, and what you've planted here is gonna continue to grow because you've watered it so well, so now it's time to go spread some seeds elsewhere. Like, you need to plant your roots somewhere else and continue to grow. I just felt God's like release in a way of knowing that I was in Tampa for that season for a reason, and that was the time I was supposed to be there, and now it was time. I was feeling him call me out here, and I've never had so much confirmation that I was supposed to be somewhere before in my life. I moved in with Chelsea. 3 days in, we're like, oh, perfect, we're best friends, this is awesome. And you know, she really speaks so much life into me, and I go to her to always speak truth, even if it's not what I want to hear. She will definitely tell me. And I saw so much blessing come out of the female relationships I was building out here, and the new women's ministry I was a part of that you guys also saw in another one of my videos. And so I think that was the really cool part about moving, was just knowing that God's hand was on it. I knew if I didn't move, I was being disobedient. So long story short, I end up moving to California in July, and Chad's whole thing was like he wanted us to live in the same city before we got engaged. And yeah, it took him how many days before he bought the ring, babe?
Yeah, she got here, what, July 1st?
July 1st.
And I bought the ring July 3rd. So, well, I paid for it. It was being made. But in the next video, we're gonna talk about our engagement story, which will be a lot of fun. And that one will be like, I can't hype something up enough aside from our wedding video about how hilarious it's gonna be, because we had two totally different perspectives. She had no idea. And then I'm obviously like, you know, just wait for it. We can't wait to share.
He incepted my mind.
But yeah, and so that was honestly a big question for us before we get into the whole engagement stuff, is that she wanted to have a ring on her finger before she moved out here. And we had been friends for so long, but we've never been together in the same city. It was really important for me to be like, okay, let's make sure that we actually like really want this and we mesh well when we're in the same city. And it all took all of 2 days.
And you weren't even in town those days, babe.
Yeah.
I got in July 1st and he flew out July 2nd because Nicole picked me up July 2nd and took me shopping. Yeah. And then I picked you up from the airport the 4th.
This is the same Nicole that you can buy her presets using code Tori at Nicole Balsamo Photo.
Just follow me on Instagram and DM me and I'll send you.
I can't wait to do ads because I'm gonna read it just like that. Like, you know, it comes as no surprise, but we're really big fans of Chip and Joanna Gaines. I don't know if you've seen anything. I'm very much like Joe. She's very much like Chip. But I just like, so this is Hearth and Hand. You know, this is their, oh look, I'm a beauty influencer. And we should try to sell this one day. We should do like fake ads one day.
Stuff. Baby, don't.
I always do that every time.
I'm like obsessed with candles and every time he's like, oh my gosh, babe, smell this. And then he takes this like massive whiff and he doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I have issues. I have a lot of issues. I think if you are long distance or you're debating long distance or you're like negative against long distance, you know, you're just like, I could never do long distance. I would really just, like, I would love to challenge you in that one of the best things about long distance for us is that it allowed us to build a friendship. I think one of the reasons why marriage has been so easy on us, I'm gonna knock on wood.
Babe, there's wood right there.
I was just looking for a chance to give her a nuggies, babies. And so we really have a good foundation of our relationship because we couldn't just jump each other's bones. We had to talk to each other. We had to learn how to respect each other. We had to learn a lot of things about being friends first, and that's so important. Because I mean, ultimately, in the wise words of Rich Wilkerson Jr., you know, what keeps you at 25 and 30 won't keep you at 55 and 60. And so we were able to build things that are gonna keep us whenever we're not, you know, just so,
when I got all the wrinkles.
You know what I mean? Like, and hopefully we'll still be like that then, but we were investing in our future.
You gotta think long term.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of benefits to being long distance too.
I did get some requests to do a like relationship Q&A. So if you guys have questions for us and want us to do a relationship Q&A from like a Christian perspective, feel free to drop the questions below or DM either one of us on Instagram. And if enough questions come in, we'll make that video.
Do you mind if we call it a Q&R?
Sure. Q&R, because we don't have all the answers, but we'll respond to your questions.
Yeah.
So, anyways, if you have any friends that are going through long distance relationships and you feel like this would encourage them, shoot it over to them. Or, you know, you can always just like it too.
If you liked it, maybe think about liking it.
We love you guys. We hope that you're enjoying our love story series. I think the next video is gonna be our engagement story and then maybe our wedding video.
Ooh. Part 5, the engagement story. I don't know what that is, but I'm doing it. Oh, my little munchkins. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.